What if a single missile, fired in the dead of night, could unravel years of military planning, erase billions of euros in resources, and topple the trust built among nations? Imagine the consequences if, with a single explosion, the security calculations of an entire continent were thrown into chaos. This is not just the stuff of war games or apocalyptic fiction. It is the nightmare that became reality on the outskirts of Lviv, an event whose echoes still ripple through every European capital. In the early hours, under a shroud of secrecy, a precision-guided Russian strike obliterated a clandestine shipment destined for Ukraine. As the sun rose over a landscape scarred by fire and twisted metal, the world was forced to confront a painful reality. Germany's covert investment, long-range Taurus missiles, painstakingly procured and positioned to tip the balance of war, had been destroyed in an instant. The financial loss alone was staggering, but the deeper damage cut through Germany's reputation, Europe's collective security, and the fragile trust that links NATO allies together. This was not a mere accounting error or the loss of a routine shipment. It was a fundamental breach, a reminder that in modern conflict, no secret is safe and no strategy immune. Panic flashed from Berlin to Brussels, as Western capitals scrambled to explain how such a supposedly protected operation could unravel so completely. Rivals, meanwhile, reveled in a stark demonstration of intelligence might, seizing on the moment to question the West's technological prowess and unity. What unfolded was more than a tactical setback. It was a watershed moment, exposing the vulnerabilities that underlie Europe's defenses and forcing urgent, unsettling questions about the West's ability to protect its secrets and investments in an era dominated by artificial intelligence, relentless surveillance, and data warfare. If a single strike can erase years of work and billions in resources, what does that spell for the future of European stability, the credibility of Western militaries, and, most urgently, the fate of Ukraine? To understand the magnitude of this event, let's step back to the secret convoy's journey. The operation was textbook in its caution. The missiles were moved under the cover of night, shielded by layers of counter-surveillance, guarded by elite security teams, and routed through what was considered the safest corridor in western Ukraine. Every detail, from encrypted communications to the timing of border crossings, had been planned months in advance. Yet, the Russians appeared to know not only the location, but the exact timing of the transfer. The strike came without warning. On the outskirts of Lviv, a city long considered a sanctuary from the worst of the war, a single high-precision missile shattered that illusion forever. The explosion was so powerful that it rattled homes and shattered windows for kilometers around, with shockwaves felt as far away as the Polish border. In neighboring Polish towns, alarmed residents flooded emergency lines, fearing a disaster on their own soil. Imagine the scene. A midnight railway yard, quiet but tense, with a heavily guarded train carrying a cargo that could tip the scales of the conflict. These were not ordinary munitions, but cutting-edge German Taurus missiles, each capable of striking targets hundreds of kilometers behind enemy lines. In seconds, this billion-euro gamble, and NATO's strategic edge, was annihilated in a firestorm visible for miles. This was no routine attack on a fuel depot. It was a surgical strike on a covert operation, thought to be untouchable. The operation's secrecy had been considered ironclad, with counterintelligence sweeps, encrypted messaging, and physical countermeasures at every stage. Yet all this was for naught. In the aftermath, confusion reigned. Ukrainian officials released only terse, ambiguous statements, initially describing the incident as a hit on a storage facility for lubricants. International media scrambled for details, but the official silence only fueled speculation. On social media, videos of a vast fireball and secondary explosions contradicted official denials, while analysts questioned the government's narrative. Satellite images soon told the true story. The devastation was far greater than what could be explained by a simple fuel dump. Multiple defense analysts confirmed. The real target was a key railway hub loaded with Western weaponry, an arsenal meant to change the course of the war. This was confirmed by several sources, including leaked NATO briefings and eyewitness testimony from railway workers who described seeing heavily armed security teams guarding the train in the hours before the strike. This event shattered the myth of Western logistical invulnerability. It proved that even the most carefully guarded, highest-value shipments could be located and destroyed with chilling precision. The psychological blow was immediate. Suddenly, every supply route, every secret shipment, and every covert operation felt exposed. It was as if the very ground beneath Europe's security planners had shifted. To put this in perspective, consider historical parallels. During World War II, the Allies went to extraordinary lengths to conceal the D-Day invasion, using everything from deceptive radio traffic to inflatable tanks. Even then, success depended on luck and the limitations of enemy intelligence. In today's world, with thousands of satellites orbiting overhead and artificial intelligence parsing vast rivers of data, deception is vastly harder. The Lviv strike was not just a tactical victory for Russia, it was a warning that the old playbook is obsolete. As dawn broke, European newsrooms erupted. Military analysts worked around the clock, piecing together the timeline, and political leaders braced for a wave of public scrutiny. The question on everyone's mind: how did Russia know? Was there a leak, a cyber breach, or did Moscow's intelligence agencies simply outmaneuver their Western counterparts? The consensus among military analysts was grim. This was not mere luck, nor the result of a traitor in the ranks. Instead, it was a calculated showcase of Russia's latest weapon, a fusion of artificial intelligence, electronic surveillance, and big data analysis unleashed on the battlefield. Russian algorithms, drawing on streams of satellite imagery, intercepted radio bursts, and even patterns in encrypted logistics traffic, had pieced together the convoy's movements. What was intended to be invisible had been laid bare, highlighted in real time on digital maps thousands of kilometers away. No route is safe now. Not railways, not highways, not the dense forests of Eastern Europe, nor the dark of a moonless night. Every convoy, every detour, every coded message leaves a digital footprint. This is the new reality. Invisible eyes, powered by relentless code, can track and target with a speed and accuracy that would have been science fiction just a decade ago. This was not the loss of a single train, but the collapse of Western confidence. It was a gut punch, a public admission that even the best protected supply lines can be found and destroyed in real time, and that traditional countermeasures are no longer enough. Germany's covert delivery of long-range missiles had been disguised as humanitarian aid, complete with decoy vehicles and false manifests. Yet these efforts were no match for the digital dragnet now sweeping the theater of war. Years of planning and billions in funding were consumed in a single flash of fire, never reaching the Ukrainian forces who so desperately needed them. The lesson could not be clearer. In this new era, there are no more sanctuaries. Every mission, no matter how clandestine, is vulnerable to exposure and attack. The battlefield is no longer just physical territory. It is also a contest of algorithms, data flows, and information dominance. This event did not just devastate Ukraine's immediate prospects. It sent shockwaves through Berlin, Brussels, Warsaw, and beyond. NATO's command structure was thrown into crisis mode. Emergency meetings stretched late into the night, with leaders demanding answers. How could such a sophisticated operation be so thoroughly compromised? In Berlin, the Chancellor's office became a pressure cooker. Opposition parties seized the moment, denouncing the government for reckless risk-taking and lack of transparency. The failed cover-up, initially framing the strike as a mundane fuel depot explosion, only deepened public anxiety. The press pounced on inconsistencies, and trust in government competence began to fracture. The political fallout was immediate. Calls for resignations echoed in the Bundestag. Cabinet ministers faced grilling on live television. Allies abroad privately questioned whether Germany could be relied upon to safeguard critical technology. Meanwhile, Russian media celebrated the strike as a humiliation for NATO and a demonstration of Moscow's technological prowess. Across Europe, security protocols changed overnight. Poland, Czechia, and Hungary launched urgent reviews of their borders and military logistics. Emergency drills were conducted with unprecedented urgency. Digital defenses underwent rapid audits, and intelligence agencies were ordered to trace every possible vector of compromise. The specter of cyber breaches and insider betrayal loomed large. Was there a mole, a hacked database, or simply an overwhelming advantage in Russian reconnaissance? Intelligence chiefs pored over logs, communications, and personnel files, desperate to prevent the next catastrophe. Classified meetings crackled with tension, as the possibility of deeper infiltration haunted every discussion. A new era of warfare had dawned, not one defined solely by tanks and missiles, but by invisible threats, algorithms, surveillance, and leaks. The old playbook of secrecy, deception, and compartmentalization is no longer enough. Power now rests with those who can weaponize data, anticipate moves, and expose hidden truths. The consequences of failing to adapt are dire. Economic shocks could ripple through defense industries and financial markets. Political chaos could paralyze governments, fueling the rise of extremist parties and eroding faith in institutions. The risk of uncontrolled escalation, where a single miscalculation or exposed secret triggers a wider conflict, has never been higher. Examples abound from recent history. The Stuxnet virus, which sabotaged Iranian nuclear facilities, demonstrated how code can cripple an adversary's capabilities without a single shot fired. The 2015 cyber attack on Ukraine's power grid showed that infrastructure can be paralyzed remotely. Now, with artificial intelligence accelerating the pace and scale of analysis, the dangers multiply. As Europe reels, old alliances strain under the weight of new vulnerabilities. NATO's unity, once a bedrock of deterrence, is now questioned in whispers. Will allies share sensitive intelligence, knowing it might be compromised? Can supply lines remain open, or will every shipment be a potential target? The next moves will determine more than the outcome of this crisis. They will shape the future of European power, the credibility of Western defense, and the fate of Ukraine. If the West cannot secure even its most valuable assets, what message does that send to friends and foes alike? The age of untouchable logistics is over. In a world woven together by thousands of satellites, ruled by artificial intelligence, and scanned by algorithms, can anything truly remain unseen? The Lviv strike has become a case study in the new vulnerabilities of modern conflict. What was once a hidden shipment, a trainload of German missiles, became a digital beacon, visible to any adversary with access to the right data. The backbone of logistics, once secrecy, has been pierced by 1,000 digital needles. Artificial intelligence is no longer a silent aid, but an active hunter. It assembles clues from satellite images, intercepted phone calls, and even seemingly innocuous social media posts. Human analysts, who once spent weeks piecing together intelligence, are now outpaced by algorithms that can reach conclusions in minutes. The fragility of secrets has never been greater. This shift is not limited to the battlefield. Financial institutions, energy grids, and transportation networks all rely on digital systems vulnerable to exploitation. A logistical strike like the one near Lviv could easily be mirrored by a cyber attack on a power grid or a ransomware assault on critical infrastructure. The lines between military and civilian targets are blurring. Traditional defenses, denials, coded messages, legal obfuscation are rapidly losing effectiveness. Rapid data analysis means that attempts to cover tracks are exposed in real time. Governments can no longer rely on slow-moving investigations to buy time. Every mistake, every inconsistency is magnified and amplified by the speed of the digital age. In practical terms, this means that no convoy, warehouse, or supply line can ever be considered truly secure. Even the most carefully concealed assets can be illuminated, tracked, and targeted. The winners in this new era will not be those who hide best, but those who adapt fastest, who build resilience into every layer of their operations and accept that exposure is inevitable. So, what can be done? Practical steps are already being discussed in the corridors of power. First, operational security must be reimagined. This means not just encrypting messages, but randomizing routes, timing, and even disguising shipments in ways that blend into the digital noise. Second, investment in counterintelligence and cyber defense must grow dramatically. Every supply chain manager, every logistics officer must be trained to think like a hacker. Third, alliances must deepen their information sharing so that vulnerabilities are spotted and patched before they can be exploited. Historical examples offer hope. During the Cold War, the United States and Soviet Union engaged in an intricate dance of deception and counter-deception, each side constantly innovating to stay ahead. The key lesson was adaptability. Those who could adapt their strategies the fastest, who refused to be paralyzed by setbacks, emerged stronger. Survival in the new era hinges not on secrecy, but on resilience. The ability to absorb shocks, recover quickly, and learn from failure is now the most valuable asset any nation or alliance can possess. Training exercises must simulate not just physical attacks, but digital ambushes. Red teams, groups designed to think like the enemy, should probe every system for weaknesses. Transparency, once seen as a liability, may become a shield, enabling rapid response and public trust. This is not a distant or abstract threat. The risks stretch into every corner of society. Billions in investments, the stability of governments, the confidence of populations. If Europe cannot adapt, it risks not just embarrassment, but irreparable damage, economic, political, and strategic. Do not assume that tradition or advanced technology alone guarantees safety. The battle lines have multiplied, running through cyberspace, supply routes, and the silent calculations of tireless algorithms. Threats are digital, strategic, and always evolving. As the smoke clears from Lviv, the real challenge begins. Are you seeing reality, or just your expectations? Staying curious, asking hard questions, and challenging old assumptions have never mattered more. The balance of power is shifting, quietly, swiftly, and with consequences none of us can afford to overlook. The age of untouchable logistics is over. The future belongs to those who confront this new world with open eyes and relentless adaptability. What will you do now that nothing can truly stay hidden?